What if I told you that certain members of the Overwatch hero cast were going to be killed in the story mode? Ladies and gentlemen, come with me. Look at this. This is insane. So this is a potential leak from a developer that worked on the cinematic side at Blizzard Entertainment. And this is honestly crazy because this goes into an entire debate about what would potentially happen with the story. The whole thing of going free to play, a sequel, and not going down the path of Overwatch 2 being an expansion that's paid for. There is a lot to cover here. So I don't know. Let's just go through this. But remember, take this with a pinch of salt. But this account is saying it was a Blizzard developer, and I've seen some stuff which does make me believe that it actually is. Although I'm not going to show that in this video. I know that's frustrating, but I'm not going to do that. So this, let's just break it down. Let's just go for it because what in the world? So they say this: I worked for like a month on this shot. I would later go on to work on several scenes for the campaign mode in-game, none of which will ever see the light of day. So the first thing is, you're sort of thinking, okay, this is a developer that's obviously pissed, right? If you put literally years of work into something and it never gets to see the light of day, how can you actually reference that as like, okay, this is what I worked on and this is what I did? You cannot, right? It's owned by Blizzard. We're never gonna see it. So you can understand why these people would get angry, right? And would have these outbursts and go, no, actually, I'm gonna say I did this and I did that and this was happening. Anyway, you would see Zenyatta standing on his own 2 feet, which we have seen. Like, that has been teased in some stuff because he stands with, it's at the end of the invasion story missions. You've got Mundata, you've got Ramattra, and you've got Zen standing there. So, we've seen that. But then, this just comes out of nowhere. And they killed Reinhardt at some point in the story. What? What? Is this why they don't buff Reinhardt? Is this why they're just like, whatever, it doesn't matter? Because he was literally going to die. Now, obviously, I highly doubt they would remove a hero from PvP. But if the story mode was going to be its own self-contained thing, killing heroes off would have been a massive, and I mean a massive, shock to everybody. But like I said, I don't think it would have gone as far as the hero is now not playable, it's just gone. That would be insane. Because Reinhardt has been in the game for years and years and years, and just taking that away from players. And also, no other tank plays like Reinhardt. So that would be a massive shock to the system if that happened. But what a bombshell. But even on the face of it, this is just crazy. And you think, what's going on here? You then start looking at this tweet, and it's got 41,000 likes, 4.1 thousand bookmarks, 2.1 million impressions. It's like, what? So this is either the biggest bait in history, or this is mental. Anyway, this user starts replying to a lot of people, and we start getting more info here. So let's break it down. I sound like Lucio, don't I? I always say that. Let's break it down, but whatever. I don't even like Overwatch, but it's really sad seeing they cut short the campaign stuff. A lot of care was put into it. Okay, well, I will say a lot of care was put into the story element. I think the cinematics and game stuff, that's cool. I'd really like to see more of that stuff. Of course, we know we're not going to see any of this anymore, so I guess it really doesn't matter. The entire team has been fired that was working on this stuff, and we know it's cancelled anyway. So, yeah. It would have been seriously cool, but, and this is just speculation as I was on cinematics, not the game team, I think they got insanely ambitious with a huge cast of characters, trying to manage all those stories, balance all those talent trees, make it all replayable, etc. Now, this was the thing, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but the amount of talents for every hero, even if you say there was more than 10, wasn't there? There was 3 different talent trees for each hero. So let's just say 30... talent trees for what are we at now? 39 heroes in the game. 39 times 30. That's a hell of a lot of talents, and that doesn't include the heroes that are being developed. This is a lot of talents. Everything's got to be unique as well. Load of work will go into that. But then, if each one needs a different story, and all the stories, the way they intersect, and all that, this would be like a never-ending thing. I mean, it would be decades of PvE story mission content, and if Blizzard were working on it to that extent, and they wanted to drop massive updates with it, you can see why it never really happened. It just seems like it was just way too out of proportion. The whole thing was just too big to ever make it work. And the post then goes on to say, good solution might have been to use the original characters and slowly build from there as it goes. This game did it as a barely existent story, weaving on characters. Okay. And the poster says, agreed. And that plays into the need to be a series of expansions instead of a hard drop sequel where they had to retroactively, I should say, maintain a whole other game. Just didn't make sense from a consumer standpoint. So this is an issue, isn't it? Because Overwatch, in an ideal world, we can sit there and we can go, right, so you've got Overwatch, right? It's not Overwatch 1, there's not Overwatch 2, it's just Overwatch. What we're going to do is bring out this story content. It's a paid expansion. It's going to have enough content to take us through like the first arc of the story. There's going to be all these replayable hero missions. There's going to be all of these hero talents, and there'll be new heroes. We're going to deliver that to players. We're going to charge them $60 for it. Okay, right? And then 2 years later, we're going to give them another one. And then 2 years after that, we're going to give them another one. My original thinking around this was always, you've got Overwatch, then it should be like Overwatch, let's just steal the name Invasion, but Overwatch Invasion, and that was the expansion, and that was literally it. I'm not saying just the 3 invasion missions that we played here, guys. I'm talking like 30 or 20, 30 missions, whatever. Let's just go insane. But a fully fledged thing that gave us a completely different way to play the game, and it was like a thing that plugged into Overwatch, and then we carried on. Of course, we know that wasn't the case, and there's all the back and forth about should Overwatch 1 have been free to play? Overwatch 2, does that go free to play? If that does, then what happens to the expansion? Can they do PVE on time? We need to now launch the game because we're not happy with Overwatch League's viewership, and we think if we go free to play now, it's going to boost the viewership for that, so we need to launch Overwatch 2. We're calling it Overwatch 2, but it's just literally Overwatch 1, but it's 5v5. Yeah, there's fancier graphics, but the graphics are not that radically different. It is to hardcore players, don't get me wrong, but to just average Joe on the street, Tracer, it just looks like Tracer, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, it just looks like a different skin. So, I mean, this, you could just go on forever and ever and ever about this. And there is something I do want to show that we missed from Jason Schreier the other day, which does talk about free-to-play. But we'll get onto that if I remember at the end of the video. And if I don't hate me for it. It's pretty late in the UK, and I'm losing my mind. So, yeah, we'll just carry on going for these responses. I like how Zenyatta standing on his own feet is comparable to Reinhardt dying. It was equally upsetting. Oh, actually, here's the image. So this is the image from the end of Invasion, right? I'm pretty sure that is. But there's Zen. Legend. Mondata. Legend. Killed by Widow. And then Ram. I mean, Ram is like one of the best characters. What have I done here? I don't want to click that. Ram is one of the best characters, I think, in the game, full stop. And I'm so sad that we never get... I don't think we're ever going to get to see Ram's cinematic, which, from what I understand, is an absolute, or would have been, incredible. But we'll never get to see it. The failure of Overwatch 2 needs to be studied. So freaking sad, man. It's not... so here we go. It needed to be an expansion with cool graphics and aesthetic upgrade, not a sequel. It was very upsetting because we busted our asses to get the Overwatch 2 short done on time for BlizzCon, only to learn about a mountain of game delays as it sunk into dev hell. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've said this before in videos and I'll say it again, but I remember when I was at BlizzCon in 2019, I was like, I remember watching the cinematic, and I knew that I was up to go and play Overwatch 2 first and stream Overwatch 2, and it was the Rio mission, but I didn't know it was the Rio mission. They wouldn't tell us what it was. They were just like, yeah, it's a demo. You're going to get to play it. And I remember watching the cinematic for Overwatch 2 Zero Hour and thinking, holy hell, it's going to be some sort of like raid against the Titan. There's going to be a group of us. We're going to fight against this Titan. It's going to be fantastic. And I was like hyped out of my mind. Obviously, I'm caught up in the event and everything. I go over to the stations and it was just this Rio mission. It was like, what the hell is this? And it was very odd. It was very odd. And obviously, it's pretty funny because that was literally the mission that launched into the game, you know, all those years later. Like literally, you know, 4 years later. Well, not 4 years later, 3 years later. Insane. I mean, even this user here says, like, I still don't understand why they didn't do this. As game as a service and just call it Overwatch, monetization needed to come back down from the moon, but the graphics upgrade, battle pass, etc. idea wasn't unbearable. So many emotions, so many people wanted success. Leap more stuff. I pitched 2 shorts, one with a friend, where we proposed Lucio's concert is crashed by null sector bots, and he springs into action, but unable to save someone. At the end, Zenyatta shows up and they start talking, implying Lucio learns healing powers from Zen. Now, this would have been kind of cool, I think. And it actually, I mean, we do have the sort of null sector does crash Lucio's city, I guess, in Rio de Janeiro, and does crash his club. And that's where the sort of introduction of Lucio to the Overwatch team begins in the Rio missions. But yeah, it would have been cool, I think, to see this sort of take on it. I pitched a Zenyatta short that pits him against Sombra, who would hack his machinery and cause an existential crisis internally, causing him to question his sentience and general purpose in existence, eventually overcome by tranquility powers. Now, this is cool. This is kind of like what I would have loved to have seen a mission inside Sigma's mind. Like, Sigma's got this fractured mind. He doesn't know what's reality or anything anymore. It would be incredible to, like, go into his mind and try and repair it. You know, and if they were, like, being innovative and going down that path, can you imagine how incredible the ideas could be for Overwatch if they were just, like, let loose? It could have been incredible. Obviously, you know, the missions we got were just, you know, run-of-the-mill, like, dated PvE shoot bots, whatever. But, like, it would have been incredible. Can you imagine it? Like, Sigma's on an operating table and he's, like, about to die, and it's like, you've got to go. I'm reliving a Deep Space Nine episode. I'm showing my age, but there's a quality Deep Space Nine episode. You guys know if you watch it, where they go into his mind. I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, they have to piece together a dying man's mind. It's so good. They could have just done that in Overwatch. Would have been incredible. Anyway, the Shoes goes on to say that, yeah, they were both rejected. And yeah, Team Fortress 2 do nothing, win. Okay. I used to main Zen, and yeah, same. He's one of the coolest characters. Okay, so obviously that is pretty, like, this is shocking. You know, if this is true and this was going to happen, it is kind of sad to think that, you know, there was this whole world that could have been built around Overwatch, and it's sort of it's not going to be a thing. Well, this sort of leads me on to my next tweet. Now, I've pulled this up because Overwatch is trending at the moment, obviously because of that big tweet. But this sums it up, doesn't it, really? I mean, announce Overwatch 2, sideline Overwatch 1 to focus on developing Overwatch 2 as a PvE game. And again, like, you know, I can talk about this from, like, a personal perspective. In 2019, I mean, I know the decision to start working on Overwatch 2 was, like, I think it may have even have been 2017, but don't quote me on that. It was 2018, definitely, that they were getting into it. But in 2019, I go to Blizzard, and I'm there with a couple of other people to see the last hero in Overwatch 2. In Overwatch, sorry. I didn't know it at the time. They told me when I got there. They were like, yeah, this is our next hero. It's the most complicated hero we've made so far. It was Echo. And then they also told me, and by the way, this is the last hero going into Overwatch, because now we're just fully focused on Overwatch 2. And I was like, wow, I was shocked. I'm thinking, oh, this must be really close. This has got to be close to launch, yeah? Within a year and it'll be out, sort of thing, if they've really been working on it. Obviously, you know, we know that wasn't the case. And they just left Overwatch 1 for years while they worked on Overwatch 2. And then, yeah, we're in the situation we're in now. But zero updates to Overwatch 1 for years. Launch Overwatch 2 as a beta with none of the PvE elements. True. Launch PvE, but with none of the promised skill tree elements, unique interactions, etc. Scrap PvE altogether. Now, the thing with this is, you remember when the new Overwatch executive producer comes online? This is in December of 2022, and then I think he basically came in and said, what the hell is going on here? Get rid of this. It's taking too much effort, too much time. We're going to sort of focus on PvP. And I think that's where things came from, and I think that's why he was brought on board. Again, that's speculation. That'd have to be confirmed, but I would imagine that's what's happened, because surely executive producers are the ones sort of deciding where resources go in the game's development path. They are, right? I know there's loads of different producers, but the executive producers in charge of all the other ones, right? The other departments. At least that's what I think in my head. Maybe wrong. If I am, whatever, correct me in the comments. Anyway, yeah, then they just scrap PvE altogether, which, yeah. So, like, we're basically back in the situation of this is just Overwatch now. It is not Overwatch 2. And the question starts to become, what happens with this? But before we do that, let me just show you this tweet from Jason while I remember it. So this person asks and says, was making the game free-to-play Jeff's idea or someone at Activision Blizzard? Something like that can never be really attributed to a single person. It's the result of many, many meetings and slideshows and Excel spreadsheets. In fact, Blizzard strongly considered making the first game free-to-play as well. Yeah, maybe we'll get more leaks around this in the future, or, you know, when NDAs are up for developers and stuff who were maybe there a couple of years ago, we might see more information around this. But yeah, this is like, you can imagine this was the case, right? Because let's go free to play, then we can start selling expansions. I don't know, like it just, but it never obviously worked, did it? But I think the issue I've got is when we're looking at stuff like this, and we go back to this whole idea of, like, so what actually is Overwatch 2? does it need to be Overwatch 2 anymore? You can start getting really crazy with like what like. So imagine if you were the director of this game and you're thinking, right, we've got rid of PVE, we're a 5v5 game, we're not 6v6, and we've got a new game mode coming fairly soon, Clash. We're still making heroes. We've got a battle pass which we are changing to make it fairer. We've got some premium currency in it. We are going to sell the mythic skins, which we hope will make us money because they are the most advanced skins. I mean, again, that's debatable because I think Overwatch has got an issue with skins anyway. But that's just a deeper issue with the way that they sell the skins. Anyway, let's not go into that because I could be here forever. But like, there is an argument, isn't there, for just going, you know what? We're Overwatch, and the Overwatch 2 branding is gone. It is literally Overwatch. I mean, you watch the latest developer video. I'm literally ranting a bit crazy here now. It is late, like I said. But the latest developer video, I'm Aaron from the Overwatch team. They never say I'm from the Overwatch 2 team. It's Overwatch team. Get rid of the 2. Go, right, this game now, it's PvP. Forget PvE. I mean, sometimes I think they would benefit from just being... I mean, I know, again, I am mad rambling here. I know there's a lot to take into consideration here. And the random ramblings of a YouTuber don't really equate to a massive company with, you know, an IP that's potentially worth a lot of money. But I don't know why they don't just come out and go, look, listen, we are now Overwatch. It's Overwatch Reborn, Overwatch Reforged, Overwatch 2.0. That would be funny if they call it that. But Overwatch, yeah? And we are PvP. Everything is about PvP. We're going to heavily develop the PvP game. We're going to totally build it. We're going to really support our esports scene ourselves. We're not going to use third-party providers that we don't need. And, because that will obviously help market the game. We're going to sort out our monetization. We're going to keep adding heroes to the game. We're going to now start innovating in the PvP space, whether that means going back to 6v6. I'm not saying I'm a fan of that because I think 5v5 is okay anyway. It's very complicated, though, comparing 6v6 to 5v5. I think a lot of the issues come from the fact we can't even play 6v6 anymore, which, again, is another problem. You know, they just deleted Overwatch 1 and gave us Overwatch 2. It's like, get on with it. It's like, what? So I don't know, like, what they do with this game going forward. But I think there are some bright signs for the game, because if you think they have now got a focus, and I don't think they've had a focus for a long time, they have been sort of wishy-washy, still clinging on to PvE. You know, there's not much. I mean, this is going to sound harsh, but they were working on PvE, sorry, not PvP, player versus environment, and then they sort of shifted that into the hero mastery system. Then they sort of shifted that into the hero gauntlet. And it's like they couldn't let PvE go. Like, they needed PvE in some capacity. And I think the question will always be, did Overwatch ever need PvE? Listen, if we had a time machine, we'd go back and we'd say, right, Overwatch development team, if you really want to make a PvE game, you can, but we're going to literally duplicate your team. I know this would be hard to do, but we're going to duplicate the team. They're going to keep PvP running. It's going to be its own separate thing. Yeah, you can go away for 3, 4 years, 5 years and make some incredible PvE expansion, but we're still maintaining Overwatch. And you know what? Overwatch would be one of the biggest games in the world. And because it just absolutely was. It burst onto the scene, incredible. Then it ran out of steam as it ran out of support. And then everything was put onto Overwatch 2, which didn't really innovate enough and change up enough from the Overwatch formula. And people, you know, the feedback at the time was like, it's just Overwatch. You know, I remember when the beta dropped in, was it May? It might have been May, or was it April? I don't know. I think it was May 2022. And I remember streaming it. And I don't stream. I had 50,000 concurrent viewers on a stream. Like, what in the hell? And I distinctly remember this. Let's get off the screen. I distinctly remember this, scrolling through the chat after I finished that stream. And I was like, the feedback was like, this just looks like Overwatch. Where is the 2? And I was like, this has surely got to be a problem, you know? And it did. It turned out to be an issue, and it was like, whatever. And we end up where we are now. Anyway, let me know what you think about all of this, guys. I think Overwatch it's definitely salvageable. I mean, a lot of people play Overwatch. They just need to work out how to make money off these people. You know, I'd even go as far as to say Overwatch has probably got a similar amount of players as something like Valorant, but Valorant is a hell of a lot better at monetizing its player base. Yeah, they're cheeky and they are quite greedy, but the way they go around it, maybe that's a bit sinister the way they do it, but, you know, it does make them money. I don't know. It's just, there's always going to be this issue, isn't there, with how do they monetize Overwatch 2? And I can tell you now, monetizing Overwatch 2 is not Porsche collaborations. That is absolutely not it. That is not it, Blizzard. All right, guys. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's a bit of a late one for me. A bit of a mad, rambly one, but I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Should Overwatch have just been an expansion? Should we just go back to Overwatch, forget Overwatch 2? Should we go back to 6v6? I don't know. You guys go crazy. Just let me know. What do you want to see? What do you want to see with this game? What a time to be alive. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you soon.